ви благодарам и од мое име и од името на организаторите што дојдовте во волку голем број и што останавте во волку голем број за втората сесија. На некои конференции тоа не е секогаш случај, следните сесии не се толку посетени. Многу ме радува дека и се надевам дека ќе имаме интересна дискусија како што беше таа во првата сесија. Јас сум Михајло Лахтов, работам медиумска писменост, комуникација, односи со јавност. Денеска ќе бидам модератор, во улога на модератор и ќе бидам во улога на презентер на една публикација која што Високата школа за новинарство и односи со јавност ја произведе многу скоро мислам дека и денеска излезе од печат, ја произведе како дел од овој проект. Ова беше 3-годишен проект со многу интересни резултати. Многу од нив можете да ги видите на веб страницата. Се произведоа неколку видеа со едукативна содржина, се произведе прирачник, истражување, имавме доста обуки, вебинари и така натаму. Недела на лажни вести, која што беше многу интересна, дебати од овој тип и така натаму и завршуваме со оваа интересна конференција на која во втората сесија јас ќе имам тројца соговорници од Финска и од Англија и од Шкотска, со кои ќе се обидеме да го представиме еден поинаков агол, меѓународните искуства, меѓународните знаења и да пробаме да се обидеме заедно со вас, да одгатнеме, да одговориме што можеме да искористиме во нашиот случај, што можеме да искористиме во нашето образование. Ја го споменав прирачникот кој што излезе неодамна, тоа е прирачник за млади, за медиуми, за граѓански организации, прирачник за медиумска писменост, можете да го најдете надвор. Едно интересно, многу лесно сварливо четиво, се чита за многу кратко време, затоа што е така напишано, без премногу теорија, но со многу интересни приказни и интересни поуки и заклучоци за тоа што треба да внимаваме кога ги конзумираме медиумските содржини, медиумските пораки, како да се заштитиме од лажните вести или како да ги препознаеме. И во воведот на овој прирачник, јас така ќе го почнам мојот вовед со едно истражување на дел технологии од јули 2017 година, според кое во 2030 година 85% од работните места кои ќе постојат денеска се уште не се измислени. Темпото на промени ќе биде толку брзо што луѓето ќе ги научуваат работите во истиот момент. И во таквиот нов свет квалификациите и знаењето ќе бидат важни, но недоволни. Затоа што дигиталната писменост и медиумската писменост ќе ни овозможуваат да ги научуваме работите, како што кажав, во истиот момент и ќе биде за сите оние кои што ги немаат овие вештини, ќе се соочат со сериозни недостатоци. И денеска една личност успешно да учествува во јавниот живот, политиката, бизнисот и така натаму, мора да биде медиумски писмена. Тоа ќе го најдете во воведот на оваа книга, на овој приречник, а сега ќе ги поканам моите гости денеска. Најпрвин Лаури Палса ни доаѓа од Финска, тој е млад истражувач, работи во Националниот аудиовизуелен институт, или во Финска познат како КАВИ, National Audiovisual Institute, во одделот за медиумско образование и аудиовизуелни медиуми. Тој ќе ни го представи, ќе ни даде еден поглед, еден осврт на медиумската писменост во финското образование. Лаури, повеќе.
Right. Thank you very much. Dear organizers of this inspiring, interesting conference, dear participants, dear colleague educators, dear professionals and students, I'm really grateful and excited to be here. I hope the microphones...
It's okay.
Okay. I'm really grateful and excited to be here and to give you some insights or share experiences from the Finnish educational system, from the Finnish perspective to media education and media literacy. My name is Lauri Palsa. I work in the National Audiovisual Institute in Finland in the Department of Media Education and Media and Audiovisual Media. I work there as a researcher. Our organization is a governmental office under the Ministry of Education and Culture, and among other things, our aim is to promote media literacy, media education, and a safer media environment for children and young people. We are also the coordinator of the Finnish Safer Internet Center as well. I'll start my short introduction or presentation by introducing to you this figure from our office. You can see it, our presentations are highlighted over there. I hope maybe not everybody sees that, but it shows a figure how we illustrate our media educational thinking, both in our organization, but we use this to illustrate the media education in Finland in general. First of all, it highlights the key concepts that are involved in the media educational thinking. First of all, the basis for media education and the promotion of media literacy comes from the mediated life. Media has a great influence, meaningful role in our everyday life, but also in a society in a more broader scope. It gives us an opportunity to support our social participation. More and more our communication with other people are mediated through some technological devices, through media content and different softwares. It also gives us a way to understand the world in our own surroundings, but in a world in general. It also gives us a way to express ourselves and to bring up our voices to be heard. Next thing that the figure illustrates is the relationship between the key concepts. First of all, I would like to highlight the relationship between media literacy and media education. We need to have a clear image in our head of the educational goals, what we mean by media literacy, so we can plan the educational activities, the pedagogical activities. And the last thing that this picture highlights is that we don't see the media literacy as a key educational concept, not for its own sake, but because we see it as a key or as a tool for broader goals, broader outcomes, for example, to promote peace or democracy or good life in general. When I was preparing this presentation, I wanted to look how media education was part of the Finnish curricula earlier as well. So I made this kind of small historical contextualization just to give you some background information about the Finnish educational system. The media education in its contents have been in curriculum in Finland for a long time. Here are examples from the basic education. I found that already in the 1950s there were the first remarks of media education in the Finnish curriculum. Of course, the concept of media education or media literacy was not used, but the contents there were explicated remarks about teaching about media that could be understood to be this kind of media educational contents. But in the 70s, there were more systematic way to understand media education. The terms changed. They were used, this kind of concept of audiovisual education and mass media education to highlight the current media environment that was back then. In 1980s, the mass media education was still used, but in the 1990s, the communication education, including media education, was first used in the curriculum text. In 2004, the curricula introduced terms communication skills and media literacy. And this maybe the aspect or the perspective changed from the education to this kind of outcome-based thinking, that it was explicated what the media literacy means. So basically this historical contextualization shows how the evolvement of terminology have changed or have gone. And it always have been, the curriculum, the educational system is not in isolation from outside world, but it's always connected to the current certain societal, cultural, media culture that surrounds it. And of course, the relationship between the research literature and discussion as well. So now when we are going to the year 2019, we should think about what are those current trends in the media culture that should be taken into account in the educational context as well. I listed here some of the concepts or trends that has been under discussion in the Finnish educational setting and media studies. First of all, it's the basic idea of the mediatization, how the media has a growing role in our everyday life and in the society. And the technological developments, for example, the digitalization, have made it possible that many of those mediums that used to be different, for example, newspapers, television, etc., they are more and more interconnected and even overlapping or merging. For example, those pupils in the picture, they analyze the newspaper, but they still analyze it also from the smartphone. So they use the different mediums to use it for different medium as well. And also, more and more, the communication comes in a different forms. So this multimodality is one topic that has been under discussion. How we use not only plain text, but visual symbols, pictures, animations, videos in our communication. And as Tordi has said, these kind of digital technologies have also transformed what this means to be literate and to experience literacy nowadays. And he has made this article about the taxonomy of different literacies that he explicates to have been, what kind of literacies have been used to capture this kind of technological transformation. For example, the media literacy, information literacy, or digital literacy, and many other literacies, as you may know. But when we go to the current context in the Finnish educational system, I'm really sorry, maybe not all of you can see the figure I wanted to show you, but it illustrates the Finnish educational system. Basically, there is the basic education that starts from the year 9 and lasts for 9 years. It starts at the age 7, the pupils are at age 7 when they enter the basic education, and it lasts for 9 years. But before that, there is the pre-primary education and early childhood education and care. And above that is the upper secondary education. But what is important to notice in the latest curricular reform that was commissioned in 2016, a completely new concept of multiliteracy was introduced in the Finnish curricula framework and in the educational system. Multiliteracy means the competence to interpret, to produce, and make valued judgments across a variety of different texts in different environments, for example, in digital environments as well. But what is important to note that this same concept that is used not only in the basic education, but also in the pre-primary education and also in the early childhood education and care curricula. And also in the upper secondary education, in the general upper secondary education and the vocational education as well. So the same concept goes through the educational system as a whole. But when we focus on the multiliteracy in a Finnish basic education, we see that it's one of these 7 transversal competences that is explicated there. This means that the multiliteracy has a major role, since it should be developed in all different subjects, in all different disciplines, and in all grade levels, starting in the basic education, starting from the 1st grade. Multiliteracy is based on this kind of broad understanding of text. In this context, text means information produced by systems of verbal, visual, auditive, numeric, and kinesthetic symbols and their combinations. Multiliteracy, as it is said in the name, is this kind of umbrella concept that involves different literacies under it. For example, the media literacy. But what is important to notice from the perspective of this kind of broad media educational or diverse media educational perspective is that the developing multiliteracy, its precondition is the cooperation inside the educational system between those different subjects, but also with other actors, for example, libraries, museums, youth work. Lastly, I want to highlight 3 points to conclude this first introductory presentation. First is the broadness and diversity of media literacy. This means that from the policymakers' point of view, media literacy is not only a matter in the educational policies, but also there is own media literacy policies, separately, individual, but it's a part of many different policy areas. For example, education, cultural policies, library policies, audiovisual policies, media policy as well. So it's connected to different areas of policies. So this cooperation is really important and highlighted. But the broadness also is seen inside the specific policy area. For example, in the education, it's the transversality that we try to capture the broadness, the different aspects to media literacy. The second point I want to highlight is the curricular consistency. Every educational system, they forms a whole, like different parts forms a whole educational system. So it should be this kind of broad aspect when we are thinking about developing educational systems. For example, in Finland, this means that the same terminology has been used in all of those different curricular levels or different levels of education. But on the other hand, it also highlights the importance of contextualization, that we cannot see that we use the same concept in a different way, in the same way in all of those different contexts, but we need to highlight the importance to, for example, age-specific pedagogical thinking in the early childhood education and basic education pedagogies there and educational thinking. So it highlights the need for mutual discussions, what we mean by those same concepts that we use. The last point I want to highlight is the conceptual clarity of the educational goals. This means that when we highlight the broadness and diversity of media literacy, the term comes really broad and diverse. So we cannot take it for granted that when we are talking about the same concept, that we really mean the same things with the same concept. So this means that we need to verbalize what we mean by media literacy when we are talking about it, and to have these kind of mutual discussions to promote the shared understanding. And this all, of course, promotes the equity of media literacy. We see that media literacy in this mediated culture, in society and in the world in general, should be a competence for all. So we need to take into account how we promote the media literacy for all people.
Thank you for this interesting presentation. Ти благодарам. Мислам дека отвори неколку интересни прашања на кои што можеме да дискутираме кога ќе отвориме дискусијата, прашање и одговори. Следен мој соговорник денеска е Александар Коцич. Он ни доаѓа од Шкотска, во моментот предава на Наpier универзитетот во Единбург. Целиот свој живот го поминал како новинар, како ТВ новинар, новинар во печатени медиуми, но себе се гледа и се доживува како радио новинар. Работел за BBC, работел за неколку приватни и за јавното радио во Србија. Ќе биде интересно да ја слушнеме неговото гледање, неговата перспектива, поврзана со неговите активности и работа.
Dobar dan svima i veliko hvala što ste me pozvali da ovde učestvujem u ovoj jako zanimljivoj diskusiji i da ukratko podelim svoje iskustvo sa vama. Today I would like to talk to you about my own small-scale effort towards increasing and improving media literacy in Scotland, which is based on the phenomenon of fake news, which I see as an important part of news literacy education. Fake news is everywhere. Maybe it's not, but at least that's the perception, which is why all of us, and young people in particular, need new skills so we can critically approach news consumption. As research into the fake news phenomenon grows, there are more and more definitions of the term, but I will use the one provided by the Ethical Journalism Network, which says that fake news is information that has been deliberately fabricated and disseminated with the intention to deceive and mislead others into believing falsehoods or doubting verifiable facts. The phenomenon of fake news is not new. Rumor and false stories have been around for as long as humans, but in its current incarnation it presents a number of unique features and challenges. The current fake news phenomenon is taking place in a relatively new and fast-changing media and news ecosystem driven by the rapid development of the internet. Thanks to that, fake news is being produced with an increased sophistication and on a much larger scale. Most fake news dissemination takes place on social media platforms such as Facebook or Twitter, where content can be relayed among users with no significant third-party filtering, fact-checking, or editorial judgment. By providing every user with a potentially mass audience, social media platforms have broken traditional journalism's monopoly over news production and distribution. An individual user with no track record or reputation can in some cases reach as many readers as, say, Fox News, CNN, or the New York Times. As we all know, the phenomenon of fake news became particularly prominent during and after the 2016 US presidential election, and to a lesser extent, the preceding EU referendum campaign in the UK in the same year. Research published just after the US election offered interesting findings regarding the belief in fake news effects. 88% of Americans said that fake news has caused confusion about the basic facts of current events, and a quarter of them reported that they have shared fake political news online. The prevailing concern is that widespread fake news on social media will precipitate a crisis of democracy by undermining the assumption that members of the democratic society are informed and capable of making rational decisions. My own ongoing project that aims to raise awareness of fake news among young people in Scotland is situated within the wider context of information, media, and news literacy. Information literacy is a set of abilities requiring individuals to recognize when information is needed and have the ability to locate, evaluate, and use effectively the needed information. Information literacy also is increasingly important in the contemporary environment of rapid technological change and proliferating information resources. It is an intellectual framework for understanding, finding, evaluating, and using information. Media literacy sits within information literacy. It is defined as the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and communicate a variety of media messages or acquisition of knowledge structures, especially about the media industries, general content patterns, and a broad view of effects. Media literacy should be about helping people to become sophisticated citizens rather than sophisticated consumers. The mass media, in other words, should be understood as more than a collection of texts to be deconstructed and analyzed so that we can distinguish or choose among them. If we narrow this down further, we come to the part of media literacy that my project works within, news literacy, the ability to distinguish real news from the burgeoning numbers of imitators that might look like works of journalism on the surface, but are not the products of journalistic practices involving verification and so on. Or, as Ashley puts it, news literacy is about exporting the journalistic epistemology to ordinary citizens struggling to navigate daily life, checking facts, evaluating sources, examining evidence. When news literacy is considered in the context of long-standing domains of media literacy and civic literacy, it becomes clear that critical analysis of the information environment requires a deeper understanding of the context in which news is produced. In my workshops in secondary schools in Scotland, I have taken the content-centered approach outlined by Kovac and Rosenstiel, who emphasize the skills of how to read news. They encourage a skeptical way of knowing based on 6 questions. What kind of content am I encountering? Is the information complete, and if not, what is missing? What or who are the sources, and why should I believe them? What evidence is presented, and how was it tested or vetted? What might be an alternative explanation or understanding? And am I learning what I need to? So based on the above, I have designed a workshop that I deliver in secondary schools at the moment just in and around Edinburgh, with a view to expanding this project to the whole of Scotland. I talk to pupils aged 13 to 16 about the history of fake news, its definition, and some key examples before turning to the few simple steps pupils can take when reading news on social media and the internet in general. The last part of my workshop is a discussion with pupils about 2 key issues. What can be done at societal level to combat the spread of fake news, and who should do it? Ourselves, social media giants, or our government? Earlier this year, the Commission on Fake News and Critical Literacy in Schools, set up by the UK Parliament and National Literacy Trust, found that only 2% of children and young people in the United Kingdom have the critical literacy skill they need to tell whether a news story is real or fake. Half of children are worried about not being able to spot fake news, and almost 2/3 of teachers believe fake news is having a harmful effect on children's well-being by increasing levels of anxiety, damaging self-esteem, and skewing their worldview. Proliferation of fake news is making children trust the news less. While almost half of all the children get their news from websites and social media, only a quarter of children actually trust online news sources. Regulated sources of news, such as TV and radio, remain the most used and the most trusted by children and young people. Furthermore, children are most likely to talk to their family and friends about fake news and least likely to speak to their teachers. Yet, 98.8% of teachers in the UK believe they have the greatest responsibility for helping children develop the literacy skills they need to identify fake news. The Commission has made several recommendations, including efforts to ensure that the teaching of critical literacy is relevant for the digital age, is included within initial teacher training and continuous professional development projects. Also, it recommended that the assessment framework be updated to position critical literacy skills more explicitly, reflecting the changing digital landscape and the threats posed by fake news. And finally, that the teaching of critical literacy is embedded across the curriculum and applied to the whole school, not just isolated subjects such as, say, media studies, which in the UK is a formal accredited curriculum subject. I hope that my project can grow and fit in. I am beginning talks at the moment with the Scottish Government and other stakeholders in Scotland about this project, as I believe this is an urgent issue that needs addressing in a systematic way. Thank you.
I have to use this expression, which is used at every conference, last but not least. If we don't use it. Значи, последна, но сепак не најважна, јас би рекол некој со кого и Македонскиот институт за медиуми и Високата школа, Институтот за комуникацијски студии соработуваат веќе години поред, некој кој што го познава овој регион многу добро, директорка, извршна директорка на Media Diversity Institute или Медиумскиот институт за различности од Лондон. По професија новинар, работела во многу редакции, Радио Слободна Европа, BBC, така натаму. Милица Пешич ке зборува околу нејзиното искуство во овој проект, но и ке ни представи нешто околу УНЕСКО и начинот на кој што УНЕСКО ја третира оваа тема.
It happens very often that we women talk the last, but we know what to say, so we'll compensate. I want to start actually by thanking the School for Journalism and Public Relations for bringing us into this project. We've been friends and colleagues for 20 years almost, and it's been a fantastic experience. That's my first point. Second point is, as you can see, Alexander and myself, we have very Slavic names. He is not Scottish, I'm not English, but we are both British, and we both have dual nationalities, which is practical and helpful in many situations. The idea of Media Diversity Institute to propose Alexander for this final closing conference comes from what actually Laurie called knowing the context. We can't talk well about certain area, region, if we don't know how that region, the culture. So that's where we in MDI thought it would be good to bring Alexander and me to come from on behalf of MDI, because we know the region, but we also know what's happening in Britain or some other countries. Then Laurie comes as someone with completely different experience, or maybe not, after we've heard him actually. There are so many similarities. But he can have a distance that maybe we people from the region cannot have. We can be quite emotional about what we do. I did prepare the presentation because that's what I promised to my colleagues from the school, but I've been listening to you today and you and the other speakers, and I really feel that I should say something which is not in my presentation, and this is that I'm really pleased that there are so many young people sitting here who I hope have benefited from this 3 years program as much as this fantastic Theodora who was sitting here. And I was listening to Theodora and I was thinking, if we just can associate ourselves with Theodora, we can say we've done a great job. But I can see that there are much more Theodoras and Theodors around here, and I hope that next time we are sitting together, you would not come to us to ask us, oh, how can we do school paper? Do it yourself. My generation, when we started thinking about the world, the only way and the only information I needed about someone when, I was interested in a boy I would say, do you have his telephone number or address? Actually, where I was born in Belgrade, but part of Belgrade which even didn't have a fixed phone line. So I had to learn how to whistle to communicate with my best friend who was living on the 9th floor. So now when I need to get in touch with someone, I have to go to LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Skype, Facebook, email, and you cannot really decide where to find people. So it's much more complicated for my generation, for your generation, guys. It's natural to have all these channels to communicate. But is it easier? Not, it's not. Even when people have good intentions, this is how we end sometimes. And I want to share with you this example because it comes from the United Nations. And we all believe, and rightly so, that, you know, it's a great intergovernmental body. But when in 2016 they decided to have a woman ambassador for gender policies they wanted to push for, this is the creature they decided to represent, to be the ambassador, gender ambassador of the UN. And I'm sure that most of you know who's this on this picture. Is this a real woman? Is this a real woman? No, it's a character from a film Wonder Woman. So someone in the UN who was supposed to create the whole concept of, you know, pushing for gender and, you know, women, and we are there, comes with a fictional character as if there are not enough real women who can represent real women. So the intention was great, and the Buddhists would say, well, the intention matters, but, well, not always, because this ended really in a disaster, because women working in the UN protested, like, this is not what we want to be, who we want to represent us. My topic is to talk about how NGOs or non-governmental world communicate, or, you know, what is the relationship between media platforms, media people, media actors, and a non-governmental world. So I wanted just to make a couple of points here and then go back to what I heard from you. We believe strongly as a project, as colleagues, partners in this project, but also MDI, we've been pushing that from the beginning. There are no good results in anything, particularly in this important field such as media information literacy, without multi-stakeholders work together. And that's why it is important that teachers are sitting here. And believe me, in some countries where we work, it's so hard to get teachers get involved in this. For many reasons, many very good reasons. They're overwhelmed, you are overwhelmed with the work. There is constantly some, you know, out-of-school activities. The payment is modest, if not miserable. You deal with teenagers, hormonal teenagers, which is not easy. I've been a teacher in my life too, among the other professions. So it's fantastic that you've been through all this with us for 3 years. You haven't given up. And you brought up these students, pupils who do understand the importance of media literacy and who would impose to all of us, not only to teachers, but to all of us, you know, what you need, you know, and what we should then offer to you. But please keep in mind, you have to lead, you young people, because this is for you a natural kind of world. We can just help you with our experience. You have to come, you say, set up, you know, your media outlet, your Facebook group, and, you know, be careful how to use them in responsible way, and that's where we can help with. One thing we haven't mentioned today, and I think it's very important, public broadcasters, public broadcast media, public services. There is a difference between commercial media and public service media, which we pay from our taxpayers' money. So whatever our governments in Britain, or wherever, Serbia, Macedonia say, it's our taxpayers' money, and we deserve to be reflected in those media. We deserve to be included, our voices in those media, but we need to help them, particularly organizations which work already with media, help public services really do their job, which would be in our interest, not in the interest of any political parties, which is hard everywhere. And I'll start with Britain, because you all know what's happening with Brexit. And I never thought it would be happening in a country with such a long democracy. I was wrong. I think we've talked a lot about diversity, but more about diversity as, you know, diversity of media. For Media Diversity Institute, when we say diversity, we mean race, ethnicity, gender, religion, sexual orientation, language, with whatever makes us different from each other, but equal, different but equal. And that's again where media information literacy is very important, that we learn that media should be inclusive of all voices. That's the basic value or principle of democracy. And you have a new government, and it seems there is a lot of positive thinking about what's happening in Macedonia, so it's now your time to get with something new and continue this project. To go back to the topic Sashka gave me, Alexandra from the school, relationship between non-governmental organizations and the media. My background is in journalism, as Mihajlo said. So for me as a journalist, particularly born or started to work as a journalist in a very non-democratic society, non-governmental organizations have always been source of information I could not find in official sources. And that's so important in closed societies. That's where you can get information. Again, trying always to find a good story. You go to non-governmental organizations, that's where you can get fantastic story ideas, heroes for your stories. You go there and said, you know, particularly when we are lazy, we go there and say, can you find me some interesting person, you know, from your field or your depending, and you get fantastic contacts. Not only that you get the contacts, but actually NGOs help you building trust with your heroes, because they know already these people. Let's say, like, you know, there are houses for women who suffered, you know, domestic violence. So to go and talk to these women, if you have been not introduced by someone they already trust, because they've lost trust in many people. So it's very important, you know, so NGOs can help a lot. Could we have the opposite benefits? Of course, yes. Of course, yes, you know, but much more NGOs benefited from media, from journalists before the internet. At that time, we, the NGO people, now I'm wearing the NGO hat, we would wait for journalists to come to us, you know, to impose the topics, to impose the ideas they wanted us to talk about. And we had to be very cooperative to have 1 minute or 15 seconds in the news, primetime news bulletin. Things have changed since the internet. Now we have, you know, NGOs so powerful or so knowledgeable in using the media that they're imposing agendas to the, not only to the media profession, but to the governments. And I'll give you an example from Britain, plastic bags. You know, we all know how bad plastic is for the world, for the, you know, planet. It was only when NGOs started pushing for, you know, lowering the amount of plastic bags. When they started filming, you know, showing the videos of Tesco, big supermarket chain, look at all these bags in their parking place flying around, Tesco got embarrassed. So now we have to pay only 5 pence, which is really small amount. Still, since that was introduced, that you pay for bags, the percentage of bags used in Britain dropped 95%. Just for this, because you have to pay. So this came from NGOs. So yes, we still as NGOs can benefit from journalists. We have to keep good relationship, but we now also have social media to use. The problem with use of social media, before the internet, we would tell people coming from minorities, you know, organizations, we would say, you know, you have to find a way to communicate with journalists, to get them, you know, your voice into their media. Then the social media appeared, internet and social media, and say, wow, now, you know, democratization of information, everyone can have a voice. Yes, everyone can have a voice. The problem is now, as someone said, we have to find the ear to listen to us. And I'm back to the beginning, you know, how do you find people you want to communicate? You live in your little bubble with your group of friends, or it's called bubble, echo chamber. So, but it's called, some people call it homophily. So you're like gathered in one group, and the communication between groups is almost completely broken. That's how easily then fake news works, because we, you know, share it or not share it between each other. I think I should stop here, because I'm a very talkative person, as you can see, and maybe just say something more. We all know that first fake news, which people paid for through advertising, came from Macedonia, from young people. So use your creativity to help the world, you know, spread good news. Not only what in Britain we are not supposed anymore to use the word fake news, but misinformation. It is the recommendation from our government. Thank you for the time being.
Thank you very much, Milica. Сега предлагам да одиме на дискусија, на прашања. Пред кога ќе го поставувате прашањето, ќе ве замолам да се представите и да ни кажете за кого е наменето прашањето конкретно, или за сите заедно, ако сакате одговор од сите. Значи, ја отварам дискусијата, последната дискусија на оваа конференција. Еве, за да го скршам мразот, ќе поставам јас најпрвин едно прашање. Слушнавме многу интересни дискусии, го слушнавме Лаури како зборува за финското искуство и образовниот систем, примерите околу обуките за фейк ньюс и предавањата во Единбург, и на крај Милица со фокусот комуникацијата меѓу невладиниот сектор и медиумите, како се одвива таа комуникација. Еве едно прашање, може би за сите тројца. For all of you, what would be advice for the Macedonian authorities how to improve the Macedonian education system when it comes to media literacy, introducing media literacy? What would be your advice?
Maybe I should start.
Of course, now
I was last in the previous session. I think what we have learned through this project over these 3 years is that the policies are not yet there. And to really, and there is willingness, we heard today from the representatives of the government, there is educational reforms coming. So maybe the experience of organizations such as the school, not only the school, but such as the school, like what has been working, what has been not. and shorten the debates on the issues that enough things has been done and tested. So don't turn the whole thing in long debates and then with a weak paper at the end. And it happens in some countries. I'm not saying it will happen in Macedonia, but this what happens. So enough people to tell you what has been working, what has been not.
Excellent. Lauri, I specifically liked one point you raised from the three conclusions. The second one, I think it's very important, the curricular consistency, which I personally think is something that we miss here. A curricular consistency over the years, not starting all the time, all over again, from scratch, introducing something new, new concept, new models, forgetting about the old. What do you think? Do you think that this is something that we should, as a society here, Macedonia and the whole region, we should pay a specific attention?
Thank you for the question. It was one of my main points. That's why I wanted to highlight it also. I don't think I don't want to say to anybody anything that they should do or they shouldn't do. I just bring up the Finnish perspective or the Finnish aspect of this, or the Finnish experience, that this is a thing that we do and we have considered it to be important. I think the consistency comes basically, there are different kind of consistency. It's this kind of historical consistency that, of course, the educational developments there is this kind of cumulative aspects that it builds the new ones, the new developments builds basis of the older ones, the already existing educational context. And the second one is the consistency throughout the educational system. And I think we should see that children, when they start the school, start their path in the educational system, they are individuals, they are whole human persons. So it's important to see that the whole path goes through the educational system, that it's not a new person that comes from the pre-primary education to basic education and then to upper secondary education. It's the same person that goes throughout the educational system. And it gives us a way also to promote and go deeper with the media literacy. Because we have discussed today that these are not easy topics. These are not some magic tricks that we should do. Honestly, the promotion of media literacy and media education, it's hard work and it's not easy. So it takes time as well. And that time we can create through the curricula, the shared plans, shared activities that we have.
Now I will adjust the question a little bit for you, because you are a journalist all your life. For me, it would be interesting to see your perspective, and do you think that media have their special role in promoting media literacy? What is the role of media, especially traditional media, in promoting media literacy, and why they should do if they should promote media literacy?
I suppose the answer to that question depends on how we see the job of journalists. If we think that journalism is about commercial purposes, delivering listeners to advertisers, or if we think that journalism is here to serve a bigger political or propaganda mission, then the answer is no. Journalism should not be involved in media literacy, because that kind of journalism should favor a citizenry that can easily be manipulated. If we believe, like I do, that journalism is first and foremost public service, then journalists should help society learn more about how the media world works and how to be critical consumers of media, and in the area that I find particularly interesting, news literacy. I have spent most of my life working in public service journalism. First, in the dying days of Yugoslavia, I worked as a journalist for Radio Pančevo, and for 7 years, and then ever since 1992 for the BBC. And I will briefly just bring us back to the core mission of public service journalism, which was defined by BBC's first Director General in 1923, John Reid, who was from Glasgow, where I now live, who said that the mission of public service, in those days it was radio only, is to inform, to entertain, and to educate. So I think that journalists should take their role in educating the public how to become critical, how to be critical consumers of media. We live in an age where this is probably more important than ever. And we live in an age where there is strong evidence that the public is demanding responsible media, and that the public is valuing good quality media. In the Western world, we can see that news organizations such as, say, the New York Times in the United States or the Guardian newspaper in the UK are now seeing their subscriptions going through the roof. The Guardian is, for the first time in a while, actually making money. That means that citizens value good quality, responsible, professional journalism. Just briefly, as part of its mission to inform, educate, and entertain, what the BBC does, unfortunately only in England, not in Scotland where I live, they send journalists to schools these days, to primary schools and secondary schools, to work with pupils on fake news and to help them in their media projects. You can Google this. It's a very interesting project called BBC School Report, which brings together schools and children from all over the country who spend some time at the BBC. They work as journalists. They learn about how the BBC works and so on. So I definitely believe that the media, responsible media, has a very important role to play and has a stake in this project.
Thank you very much. I will also include Milica on this topic, just to...
No, I thought, that Alexander would miss, but he did. He did not. So
he was very terrible.
For the best way for media to help media literacy education is to do good journalism, so we can learn what's good journalism. The questions Alexander, posed, to his students, that are the questions good journalists ask. Who do I interview? Why these people want to talk to me? When a policeman comes to you and wants to talk to you, you have to, or politician, why do they want to talk to me? What's behind it? It's probably not only, good intentions. The best also what can media do is type of program or columns in the newspapers or whatever, is type of media watch shows. Like BBC has that kind of shows. Al Jazeera has, many media outlets have, media watch. So they show what happened in the world or in a given country, and then they show how other, media covered the event, what was wrong, what was right. It helps a lot, absolutely. So yes, that's the role of journalists, to show what's good journalism, but also to show what's bad journalism if we talk about special programs, columns.
Just wanted briefly, sorry, to, you asked us about our advice. Yeah. I don't think I'm qualified to give advice to you guys, but if I may just briefly say something about my own experience, which is don't wait for the politicians. Do something yourselves. Politicians take too long. I've just cited examples from the UK. There are very good recommendations, but who knows how long it will take for the Parliament and the politicians to put those recommendations into action. And what I'm doing, I teach in higher education at university, and I'm now going to secondary schools in Scotland, and I talk to kids about fake news. Not because it's a government project, not because it's part of the curriculum. It's because something that I felt strongly about. I asked my university to help me. They have contacts as part of their widening participation programs. They have contacts with schools in the area. They just put me in touch. I don't charge for that. It's for free. The university covers my transportation costs, and that's all. It's a very small-scale project. I hope I'm the first one who does something like that in Scotland. I hope to grow this project. But I'm saying we can start from small-scale projects without having to wait for politicians to come up with media education strategies. Hopefully, they will follow. But at the end of the day, I think where I would like to see governments take more action is in the area of media regulation. Because I think their media literacy efforts will mostly be futile if we don't have good media. If we have good quality media in a country, media literacy education will follow much more easily.
Thank you very much. Let's include someone from the audience. Ве молам, само представете се и...
Okay. My name is Mirvan Jamaili. I am a Vice Director for the Bureau for Development of Education. Today's conference is very interesting. It's my first time taking part in such conference. We had two sessions. In the first session, we had most active people being teachers who were blaming the government for not supporting enough media literacy. In the second half, we had some very interesting, productive experiences by our friends from Finland. I was also considering very important the experiences given by two people who feel themselves British, but they are from the Balkans, which is very interesting. I think I would only conclude something. I'm not going to ask questions, because apparently it was concluded that in order to teach others about media literacy, we should all be responsible. It doesn't take only government, only teachers, but everybody should do their part. Because Balkans is an interesting region where people tend to believe more fake news rather than good news. Maybe that's not only the Balkans, but the whole people generally speaking. Even journalists, when they write an article, they write it in a forum so that it could attract readers' attention. So they want to catch readers' attention. So, in my opinion, I think that we should all be responsible. I was impressed to hear professor saying that 98% of teachers in UK feel responsible for teaching media literacy. So maybe even if the government doesn't invest much on that, they feel themselves that they have to do it. And I also would point out that the journalists themselves, they have to do more on this. They are the ones to differentiate between fake news and real news. So this is all from my side. Thank you.
Ви благодарам многу. Имаме прашање таму во средината, господин? Да, може.
Добар ден на сите. Јас сум Пеце Трифуновски, наставник по етика од Битола. Hi, my name is Pece, ethic teacher. It's more strict question about your workshop, Mr. Alexander. Fake news. Can we find somewhere the materials? I'm very interested about that workshop. I want to try, and I wanted to ask you how old are the students that you're working with? Thank you.
I will be very happy to share the material with you. there are publicly available brief lessons on fake news, which you can find online. I use mostly the material produced by an American non-governmental organization, and I use some examples in my workshops that are, I hope, relevant to children in the UK. So these are easily adaptable, but I will be very happy to share those with you. Sorry, what was the second part of the question? I teach, yes, I teach, I work with school children, children aged 13, between 13 and 16. The workshops are usually organized by their English teachers because they're too young to have media studies as subject. They would have media studies after the age of 16 in the final 2 years of high school education. So these workshops usually take place within English. So that would be, I suppose, the same as maternji jezik here. And it is important, in particular, to have these in Scotland, because unlike the rest of the United Kingdom, in Scotland the voting age is 16, not 18. Yeah.
Фала многу. Само кратка дигресија, во рамките на овој проект се спроведоа и неколку обуки со представници од Сдруженијето на пензионери, со студенти и со средношколци од гимназијата Орце Николов. Од Преска сакав да го споменам тој момент. Јас бев навистина импресиониран од тие млади деца, од нивната информираност, од нивните познавања, од сите теми, не само од аспектот на медиумската писменост, него и политички теми, економски теми и така натаму, ми дадоа некаква уверување дека навистина имаме иднина во оваа земја. И тука гледам некои од нив, па можеби и они би сакале да се вклучат во дискусијата. Чисто сакам и од нив да слушнам каде тие ја гледаат медиумската писменост во образованието, што тие би направиле поинаку, што тие би промениле во едукативниот систем, кога би можеле тоа да го направи. Имаме некој што ќе се обиде, Стефан можеби, него го гледам. Што ти би направил поинаку?
Па јас дефинитивно, како што напоменав во претходната сесија, би го ставил предметот медиумска писменост како посебен предмет и редовно би ги вклучил професорите во активни дискусии со учениците. Значи, професорите да им овозможуваат на учениците простор да се искажат. И знаењата што ги применили, што ги научиле дома, да можат да ги пренесат на своите соученици и на професорите, тоа што би го сменил во погледот на обработка на материјалот е поголема вклученост на онлайн медиумите и на технологијата, затоа што, како што гледаме, технологијата се развива и тоа општество базирано на наплив од информации треба да им овозможи на учениците да можат критички да размислуваат и да имаат своји ставови. Благодарам.
Фала многу. Имаме таму уште некој кој што сака да се вклучи?
Здраво, јас сум Дарко Милошевски од правниот факултет, студент први. Мене пред се ме интересираше како да ги демотивираме младите, како, например, тие во Велешто беа, како да ги демотивираме да престане да прават лажни вести, нели подобро е да спречеш него да лечиш. Ако имаме во предвид дека за еден ден земаат месечна плата што некој во Македонија ја зема. Како тие деца да се мотивираат, сега не се само деца, да престане да прават лажни вести. Ви благодарам.
May I try to answer this?
Of course.
I don't think that anybody is motivated to follow fake news. We are fooled into believing something that's not true. I have been a victim of fake news myself. So what we should do and what we can do is talk to young people about what is fake news, how to be more careful when you read something, not only online, but mostly online, and how to question this and maybe do a little bit of verification. And fake news does not only happen online, but nobody is motivated to follow fake news. We're just sometimes easily tricked and fooled into believing something. And the same goes for news sources and news that we get in traditional media. Very often, politicians are, I was born in Serbia. You know, the biggest disseminator of fake news in Serbia is the president. You know, nothing to do with the internet, nothing to do with social media. So what we need is news consumers who will be just a bit more critical, a bit more skeptical about what they read and what they watch.
Јас ќе искористам привилегијата да бидам модератор, па да се надоврзам на Александар. Тоа беше дел од една кратка дискусија, зашто ги сакам ја конференциите, затоа што не секогаш се разменуваат искуства за време на официјалниот дел, него и за време на кафе паузите и неформално, и некогаш се водат многу интересни дискусии. Со Лаури имавме една таква дискусија. Мојата теза е дека малку треба да одмориме од едуцирањето на оние кои што ги создаваат медиумските содржини, затоа што тоа го правиме години наназад. Ги едуцираме новинарите, кажувајќи им дека треба да бидат поетични, поморални, попрофесионални, пообјективни. Со медиумската писменост имаме еден малку поинаков пристап. Сега се обидуваме да ги едуцираме оние кои што ја примаат информација, да ги примаат медиумските содржини, да ги разликуваат, да можат да измерат, да ги проценат, евалуираат што е добро, што е лошо, што е лажна вест, а што е вистинска, квалитетна новинарска информација. Можеби така треба да ги поставиме работите. Можеби нема да успееме да ги демотивираме тие кои што создаваат лажни вести, ама може ќе успееме повеќе да ги едуцираме оние кои ги примаат вестите да направат разлика.
Јас сум Сашо Богдановски од Агенцијата за аудио и аудиовизуелни медиумски услуги. Би сакал да поставам едно прашање до сите и да ја вратам дискусијата на претходно споменатите теми, кои што ми се видоа особено интересни, а тоа се општествената одговорност и пред се улогата на јавните сервиси, кои што се специфично европска традиција. Па ме интересира, што мислите во новите услови, кога традиционалните медиуми го губат своето значење, а улогата ја добиваат интернет базираните медиуми, дали не е време, можеби, да се размислува за обврски, какви што ги имаат јавните радиодифузни сервиси, да ги добијат и новите медиуми? Тоа е чисто едно прашање за размислување.
Да го малку тоа посимплифицирам. Дали зборуваме сега за обврски на дигиталните медиуми, на онлайн медиумите, од аспект на нивна регулација или поставување на правила слични како... Ова е една интересна дискусија која што се води во Македонија веќе повеќе од една година, дали...
Да, во моментот...
Да, регулација на онлайн медиумите.
Да, долго време се сметаше дека, и се уште се смета дека интернет базираните медиуми не смеат да потпаднат под регулација, односно дека тие се налик на она што традиционално го знаеме, печатот пред се. Значи, домен кој што најмногу може да биде регулиран во поглед на објавување на импресум или општи информации за кои се однесуваат на собственоста, но не и регулација во онаа смисла како што ја имаат традиционалните радиодифузни медиуми, телевизијата или радиото, затоа што се работи пред се, затоа дека не е ограничен ресурс, дека има своји специфични карактеристики, дека не овозможува, новите медиуми овозможуваат истовремена комуникација, односно двонасочна комуникација, која што ја немаат оние медиуми како што се радиото и телевизијата. Меѓутоа, остануваат отворени прашањата, нели, кога се работи за термин како што е медиумска писменост, кој што пред се примарно се однесува на новите медиуми, или е на некој начин дефиниран во новото обкружување со особената популарност на новите медиуми и губењето на значењето кое што го имаат традиционалните медиуми, се поставува прашањето кој може да ја замени улогата која што ја има јавниот радиодифузен сервис. А тоа е воедно не само да информира, туку и да образува, има и свој и пред се општествената обврска на одговорност која што ја има традиционално пред се во европските држави.
Ja ću možda samo da malo odgovorim, so to respond a little bit. You know that there have been discussions, global discussions, how to regulate or whether to regulate the internet. And the discussions are divided, I would say, along the Atlantic line. You have American approach, which is very libertarian, based on First Amendment, you know, freedom of speech. And then you have European model, which is called egalitarian, meaning, you know, we have all, you know, rights to be treated equally. So not to be discriminated against. And that's where, you know, freedom of expression, one of the basic human rights, and freedom of speech comes. So there is no one answer. My heart, whenever I see hate speech, goes towards ban it. Close the media outlet, close the platform. But we all know, if you close this platform, people would move to dark internet. You can just not really avoid this situation. When the European Commission signed with the big IT companies codes of conduct in 2016, everyone was very pleased. Now Facebook, you know, Twitter, they're going to collaborate. But we didn't know in 2006, which we know now, they were selling our information about us. So it's very complicated, probably needed to base decision on the context. We know that in our beloved Balkans, bad word, hate speech leads to armed conflict and killing very often. So maybe in Finland, hate speech does not have that weight. So it would be good to hear how do you deal with hate speech in Finland? Do you are a kind of regulatory body. How do you deal with it? Here in this region, we are still struggling how to deal with it, but maybe we can learn something from developed democracies.
Thank you for the question. Hate speech has been a problem in Finland for a long time, I believe, throughout the development of social media that has been used. There have been awareness-raising campaigns, for example, the No Hate Speech movement that has been this kind of international campaign. Of course, I'm a media educator, so I want to see the hope in the education that because not, for example, I don't believe that we all do not make hate speech. So it's something that we choose not to do, or it's inside of our identity that we don't want to do that, because we see from the ethical perspective that we have the responsibility as media educators also to have a responsibility of the media culture in general, like in other places in the society, not just in the digital environments. I think the online environments and the offline worlds are more and more interconnected and overlapping. So I'm not sure if it's useful to see them so separately as they might have been seen before. So I think the best way to counter hate speech is to educating people, to ethical, social responsibility education. That's my point of view, yes.
I will just add that media are reflection of the society. They are the mirror of the society. You cannot expect that you will see a lot of racist and nationalist media in a society which is democratic, without a lot of nationalism. So it's always a balance. That they are kind of the representation of the whole society.
If I may also try to answer your question. Great Britain is an example of a country with probably the most heavily regulated broadcast media in the world, which in my view is the main reason why radio and television are very good in the UK and why radio is still the most trusted medium. But at the same time, what is the most popular news website in the United Kingdom? It is the BBC website. And the BBC stands for British Broadcasting Corporation. Is internet broadcasting? No, it's not. So I think we need to increasingly think of public service broadcasters as public service media, which is why, personally, I am in favor, and I believe in regulation, to ensure objective, unbiased, moderated debate and objective news provision. At the same time, I acknowledge that these are very, very complicated things to regulate, and that politicians, at least in the UK, are at the moment confused and not really willing to go down that route. But thanks to the effort of a couple of young people from Bitola from a few years ago, and the impact it has had on the US elections, thanks to the efforts of certain Vladimir Putin, now the politicians in countries like the UK are increasingly thinking about doing something about the internet. We'll see what that something will be, but yes, I believe in regulation.
Thank you, Sasha. I also think that the lunch is very important for the media literacy. In order not to skip the lunch, I will just give a floor to one more participant. Една уште еден учесник, уште едно прашање и предлагам да завршуваме со забелешките. Имаме таму, извини Стефан, имаме една твоја колешка што се
Јас сум Невена Кимова од Средното училиште Никола Карев, and I have a question for Mr. Lori. How the media and the journalism are involved in the educational system, and as well as I know that there are days like the media day or the day or the week of the media, and also are there allowed visits of the studio or the redaction house where the media, where the news are made?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
I have how the media and the journalism are involved in the educational system, and are there allowed visits to the redaction house and the studio where the medias are made, the news are made?
Yes, I think it depends on local settings. For example, the biggest news media outlets are in the capital area in Finland, but in the local area there are local newspapers, for example, and so on. And we try to promote the cooperation in a local level. That for example, these schools, they can make visits in the local news stations or newspapers, or the journalists could visit the students in the schools. So that's really much encouraged. And personally, in our organization, we coordinate this Media Literacy Week in Finland that we try to support this kind of activities between those educational settings and the media as well. And also, there is a long tradition, I think it's from the 70s, I believe, it's called the Newspaper Week that is celebrated in throughout the Finland. For example, the medias, they publish free they send free newspapers to schools, for example, and make their own visits, make their own campaigns during that week. So there are different kind of activities, yes.
Thank you, Larry. Мојата колешка Александра е тука и ние ќе се обидеме сега на крајот од оваа конференција да ја заокружиме, да извлечеме неколку совети, неколку заклучоци од тоа што го зборувавме. Може јас да почнам од мојата сесија, уште ни е свежа. Зборувавме за медиумската писменост во Финска, зборувавме за медиумската писменост во Шкотска и комуникацијата меѓу невладиниот сектор и медиумите. Неколку од советите на Лаури дека потребна е различен пристап, широк пристап кога се зборува за медиумската писменост, повеќе области, потребна е конзистентност на курикулумот од секаков аспект и од историски аспект, но и конзистентност низ предметите, низ различните теми и потребна е концептуалната точност, односно за што точно зборуваме, што е точно медиумската писменост и што точно учиме и што точно работиме, тоа ќе ни помогне во планирање на сите активности понатаму. Александар го отвори прашањето кој ја има задачата да се бори против лажните вести, а потоа ние сите одговаравме. Мислам дека заедничкиот заклучок ние дека сите актери, како што кажа и заменикот директор на бирото, сите актери во општеството сносат своја одговорност. Најпрвин тие кои што ја регулираат сферата, властите кои што работат и на измена на законите, на законодавство и така натаму, вие професорите, учениците, ние од наша страна, граѓанските организации, студентите, граѓанските организации особено, и медиумите, тоа исто така зборувавме дека медиумите имаат своја специфична улога во тоа. И на крајот, како што кажавме, no good result without multi-actors involvement, или нема добри резултати без да се вклучат повеќе актери во тоа.
Јас би додала заклучоците за она што беше зборено во текот на првата сесија. Дел се совпаѓаат со оние наоди што ги имаме ние во истражувањето и некои ќе се повторат и некои се инкорпорирани од некои дискусии што произлегоа во рамки на првата панел дискусија. Јас се обидов некако да ги структурирам, меѓутоа ќе гледаме да ги надополниме, се разбира, со ваша помош. Значи, како да се осовремени, првото прашање ми е како е да се осовремени изучувањето на медиумската писменост во образованието во Македонија. Под еден, итно е и нужно ревидирање на наставните програми со содржини за медиумска писменост во основното образование, чии цели ќе бидат комплементарни со трите основни елементи на овој концепт: пристап, анализа и продукција на медиумски содржини во сите можни форми. Медиумската писменост треба да е поставена како систем кој што ќе биде еден круг што ќе го опфати од предшколското образование до високото образование. Неопходна е ревизија на постојните наставни планови и програми во основното образование со вклучување доволно теми, значи не само теми, туку доволно теми кои имаат за цел да го поттикнат критичкото восприемање и анализа на медиумските содржини, особено оние на кои што денеска еве ги гледаме се изложени младите, а тоа се новите медиуми и социјалните мрежи. Работата на Бирото за развој на образованието, но и образовниот систем треба да се води по принципот на независност. И едните и другите треба да бидат ослободени од партизација на која го контаминира постигнувањето цели во интерес на учениците. Неопходно е ревидирање на учебниците, не само по македонски, туку и на сите други јазици на кои што се изведува наставата во земјава. Во кои, особено во темите во кои што се третира улогата на медиумите и избогатување на дидактичките помагала за наставниците во оваа област. Потребни се прирачници, практикуми, дополнителни вежби, онлайн ресурси. Учениците очекуваат подобрување на условите за медиумска продукција во училиштата и поддршка на ученички иницијативи од оваа сфера, најчесто како веб страници, училишни весници, театарски изведби и слично. Оспособување на учениците со вештини и знаења за медиумска продукција. Организирани, континуирани обуки за медиумска писменост за наставниот кадар. Поголема ангажираност од страна на Бирото за развој на образованието во следењето на имплементацијата на наставните програми со цел навреме да се утврдат кои се потребите на наставниот кадар, но и на учениците, особено за темите кои имаат за цел да ја унапредат медиумската писменост кај учениците. И на крајот, еден момент, значи ревидирање на студиските програми на педагошките факултети со современи наставни програми за медиумско образование и унапредувањето, уште еднаш, како и Мише што кажа, соработката со медиумите, медиумските организации за вклучување практичари во областа на новинарството и комуникациите во академската настава.